it's pretty bad. It's pretty cringe and it's almost too clickbaity. So you have to pull that back. And yeah, I'm still not comfortable. Yes, I do use it sometimes to get those ideas out or say the thing that I said 10 different times, but it's not there yet, I don't think.
Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for joining me.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me, Jen.
You bet. You bet. So, I like to start off with what's on your mind these days?
Yes. Well, UX Playbook is on my mind. And for the folks that don't know it, it's helping designers create their first portfolio to building their first design team and everything in the middle. So I support designers with playbooks, courses, and coaching. And so, of course, that's on my mind because I'm thinking about it every day. I'm working on it every day. But also, I am thinking the evolution of what it would be. And because being your own boss, you get to dictate how you do things and how you live life. So I want to be more purposeful in terms of designing this business or this baby of mine around my lifestyle. And I'm thinking, okay, well, where is UX Playbook going to go in the future? And one thing that I've been thinking about, and I think I'm really passionate about it, is design and business. And I'm thinking of ways to help designers like myself a couple of years ago who want to be independent and start out on their own. So that's really majority of the time I'm thinking about that. I can't help but think about new products. So that's just one sort of direction that maybe UX Playbook is going. Yeah.
It sounds like running your own business is your focus. Tell me a little bit about why that is something that you're really passionate about and encouraging others to do.
Why I'm passionate about it and why I want to encourage others to do it. When I was 30 years old, I thought starting a business meant registering a company. So that's exactly what I did. And it was a huge waste of money, and I never did anything with it. It was only till years later, after I quit my job and was working with some friends and we ended up starting stuff together, I realized what it actually was, right? It's not getting a new logo out, it's not designing that website, it's actually getting that first customer. That is what business is about. When someone pays you for something, that's the start of it. And I think a lot of designers get this wrong. And just because I've been doing a lot in the past 4 years since I quit my last full time gig, I've made a lot of mistakes. And I feel like I don't mind being blunt to designers who are blocking themselves. And if they want to do it from the content angle, I feel like I have done relatively well in the past 2 years. So I'm happy to share. I think that's also in my personality to share stuff. And that's why I create content as well. So yeah, I think a mix of those things.
Okay, that sounds great. So, you're talking about creating content. What kind of content are you creating?
I'm doing quite a bit. I've slowed down recently, but at one point we were doing a TikTok every day, a YouTube short every day, a YouTube long once a week, a bi-weekly newsletter, and then posting every day on LinkedIn and Twitter. Now that's not the case. I no longer do these short videos every day because it is a lot and a lot of work. But at one point it was like, how many platforms can we be on? And can we just blitz these platforms? But now what's consistent is LinkedIn is every day, near enough, I think. Yeah, every day or near enough, but 800 days in a row. Same with Twitter, a weekly newsletter. So we scaled that down back to a week. And then sometimes videos on YouTube, Instagram. And I also do 2 live events monthly. These are broadcasted on LinkedIn or whatever the video streaming platforms are. And the good thing is I repurpose everything. So I can write once and then it can go on a bunch of different platforms. But those are the typical things I'm doing, more writing than videos these days.
Okay. Yeah, don't beat yourself up. One a day. Woo, that's a lot of content. Wow. So, Chris, what made you decide what platform you were going to put what content?
I first started on Twitter and LinkedIn. I optimized the content for Twitter, just writing because it was short, but we would do threads. So then I was just like, okay, I'll just throw it on LinkedIn. And when the Twitter growth and LinkedIn growth didn't, and it just compounded over time at a better rate. That really helped. So the data there really helped. So now LinkedIn is one of the most effective channels for me in terms of audience and growth. But fundamentally, I always just look at the data. It's not always about impressions, followers, and views. Actually, if you're running your own thing and the goal is conversion, then you're thinking about like, how many people come from this channel to my website, right? And then out of those people, how many of them convert, right?
Okay. Yeah. Don't.
So the content that you put out should ideally resonate with those people on that platform to then lead them to your desired goal. When you decide on which platform it is, of course, you have to think about what kind of content is it. Like a video on LinkedIn might do well, but might not do well. It might do better on Instagram. It really depends what kind of content it is as well. So you have to take into those things into account. Yeah.
Sure. Do you consider some of the, I'll say guesses of what content will work best or better on a certain platform? Do you feel like it's a crapshoot, or do you feel like there is a bit of a formula that is working?
I think it's probably a bit of both. I think you can look at others and be like, okay, well, that performed for that person. Will it perform for me? And I do those experiments all the time, right? Because some of them work out, some of them don't. Twitter is quite known for memes, and only recently LinkedIn opened up to that. So I think it's just around experimentation. I don't think there's a set formula. I think as someone who creates content, just try a bunch of shit. And then if your audience likes it, they like it. And then can you then repurpose that again? Because if you look at, and I like to use Clio, shout out to Trevor, a great product. If you use Clio and you look at some really big content creators like Justin Welsh, 4 out of his top 10 posts are recycled, maybe even 6. Literally the same content that he posts 3 months later. Like, might have changed the image. He might have slightly changed the hook. Sometimes he doesn't change anything and it still blows up. So it's really leveraging what works for you, but also experimenting with other sort of like quote unquote viral formats. But you never know, like something you put in like 10 hours to write a piece could be absolutely trash versus something that you put 5 minutes in. So who knows?
Yeah, that's very true. So when you're talking about recycling, you're not saying repurposing, putting the same content on multiple platforms. You're saying bring it up again at a later time.
Yeah, you should do both. You should write once, distribute on all the platforms in different mediums, maybe different hooks, whatever it is. But you should also, if it does work, just try it again like next month. Because the good thing about the internet is everybody has a short-term memory. So if it worked before, the probability is high that it'll work again. It might not, but who actually cares? Right? It doesn't really damage anything if you just post the same thing. You still wrote it in the first place.
I'd like to talk a little bit about, you're talking about writing and you're talking about video. What are the pros and cons of both of those approaches?
Writing is great. I've learned a lot just creating content in general. Writing gives you clarity of thought. I think just having to sit down and to communicate something effectively forces these nuggets out versus just riffing off it. But the good thing about video is you're bringing in lots of different disciplines. Like you're thinking about lighting, composition, you have to know the gear. You are learning to storytell, you're learning animations, sound design. There's a lot of good things to learn about video. And I spent probably about a year-ish just after I quit my job. Okay, well, I don't have anything to do. Let me just learn video production. And that was really fun. I think that the good things, just the learnings in general. And then potentially the challenges, video takes a lot of time and it's really expensive as a hobby. Yes, you got to get the lights. You've got to get the camera. You got to get the microphone. Like everything just adds up in terms of cost, but then also it's really time consuming to learn about it and then do it and create this video. I used to spend average 3 hours on a 1 minute edit. It took me that long to get all the sound and all the things. Now I'm a lot quicker, but it just sinks a lot of time in terms of a creative endeavor. I think more cons for video than there are for writing. I think with all these like GPTs out there, it's really easy to just spin something up, right? For video, it's not so easy, although we do see some of these platforms out there. In terms of those two aspects, I think those are the main pros and cons for me.
Yeah. Well, speaking about AI tools like GPT, and writing. What are your thoughts in using a tool like that for writing?
Yeah, I will never let it write and then publish. That would be a big no-no from me. Have, of course, used it, usually to spell check, brainstorm ideas, and a whole bunch of other stuff that needs like a lot of labor afterwards. It's a good starting place, but I have no problem coming up with ideas. So I don't need it necessarily for ideas. What I need it for is maybe a list of words, maybe quicker than a thesaurus or whatever.
I found that too. Give it a little summary and say, give me some headline ideas. And I'm like, I'll take a piece of that and a piece of that and put them together. Like it just isn't 100%. Oh, that's the one. I use it in pieces. Do you find that?
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. If you've written something already, you don't necessarily want to write like a crazy detailed prompt. You might as well just start writing the content. So I'm really lazy in writing that prompt. So usually my prompt is less than a sentence long, right? Yeah, I'm lazy that way.
I find that too. And then you get undesirable results. But then, like you said, you already know the content, you know what you want. I'm using it more for a summary.
Mm.
Summarize this, give me a headline, what are some bullet points, and I'm close for most of it, but not all of it.
Yeah. And what part of that, where is AI in your workflow? Like you said, summary of work documentation or books or chapters of things. What are you using it for specifically?
Yeah. So, in relationship to content creation, I'm pulling my scripts. I use a tool called Descript for editing and copy and paste my script into ChatGPT. And I say, give me headline ideas for this. Or I say, summarize this for me. I always ask for multiple options. Give me 10 one-sentence summaries of this thing. And so that's how I'm using it on content creation. But when it comes to work, I'm a researcher and I'm using it more so for brainstorming ideas, not writing my discussion guide. I've tried to use it to, write me an email to a stakeholder. It was just too formal. I wouldn't talk like that. That's not going to work for me. So mostly brainstorming, mostly front end of the process. I'm not comfortable with it summarizing my results because I feel like it could miss those aha moments or those one-off moments that are really gold, but there aren't repeat themes. So I haven't used it at the back end of research kind of things yet.
And have you found using AI is good for writing titles and hooks?
I do find it's helpful for titles. I haven't really used it for hooks. Usually I'll hear the hooks within the content of the interview or what I'm saying, or I might think of it ahead of time. And it's still to be determined if it's successful. Like I have just started using it for thumbnail titles, not the titles I would have said. I think my titles are very more direct, like conversation with Chris on AI, and I'm like kind of flat. So we'll see how using these AI generated prompts to help me come up with a headline are actually successful. Early days for me. So I'm not really sure yet. How about you?
I've tried it a bunch to write my newsletter, like email subject line. It's pretty bad. It's pretty cringe and it's almost too clickbaity. So you have to pull that back. And yeah, I'm still not comfortable. Yes, I do use it sometimes to get those ideas out or say the thing that I said 10 different times, but it's not there yet, I don't think.
I agree. I think a lot of it is it's not your personality, it's not your tone of voice, it's just not expressing you. It isn't you, right? So you're like, okay, that was way off, but this, I can see using that word. I hadn't thought of that word yet. Okay, that kind of thing.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, exactly.
So, Chris, talking about creating content, what advice do you have for people who want to create some content, get to help build their brand?
There might be other ways to build a brand. Is content creation something they've been thinking about? Do they want to experiment? I think it's fine to just be like, oh, I want to give it a go. Then you have to think about what medium. Writing is almost always the lowest barrier to entry because you're writing every day anyway, you're chatting through text, whatever, right? It's the easiest form to go and publish it on one of these platforms. So that would be my advice in terms of if they did want to post content. and building their personal brand. But building your personal brand could also be like you getting speaking gigs, you holding up your hand in your company saying, I'll lead this workshop. There's a bunch of other ways you could do it. It really depends if content creation is something that person is interested in. And I'll also ask why they would want to build their personal brand. What is it for? What's the end goal? Is it to get a job? Is it to get a raise? Is it to sell products and services? Is it to go freelancing? What is the goal? So there's a bunch of other ways, I would say.
That's fair. So in UX Playbook, do you talk about personal brand?
I actually specifically talk about LinkedIn just because that's one of the places that your employers would look at. So it's more of okay, here's what you need to do with your LinkedIn. So it's not so far as a holistic take on personal branding because it's such a big topic, but it's more like, okay, here's what you should optimize for in your headline, your banner, your photo, and all that stuff. So you look a bit professional and you can also communicate what unique value you add. So I just launched this course called Job Sprint, and the first module is about personal brand. So it's really like understanding yourself, what your unfair advantage is. So I like to have 3 concentric circles. The first one is what a designer needs, and then it's like talent and skill, and then it's like passions and interests, right? If there's an overlap, similar to the Ikigai framework out there, if there's an overlap, then you can easily communicate that to your potential employer or just put it on your LinkedIn. I would say that yes, building things online or creating things online is great for personal brand, but yeah, it doesn't have to be content. It could be products that you put out there. But if you do, let's just say someone says, okay, I'm very sure that I want to create content. Okay, cool. So what should they be thinking about? I think content creation is a bit glorified and a lot of people get really lucky really quickly.
What are some goals that you have heard people say and maybe that you encourage them to refine to help them with the strategy?
From Tice, another content creator, brilliant, but he just wanted to get better at writing. So I think that was good. Going in with not that high expectations, what is the measurement of better? He was just like, look, if as long as I do this every single day for half an hour, I'm happy with that. And they go viral. Just know that most of us don't get lucky. They are the outliers. So how do you build it over a long space of time? You have to actually commit to it and consistently show up. I think everybody says that, but it's actually true, right? Like it took me 10 months to get to 10,000 and then 3 months to get to 20,000. I would have never got to 20,000 if I just quit a year in, right? So really it's building that muscle. So whether it's video or writing, just building that consistent habit and muscle, because it gets easier and easier over time. And then you can iterate based on the metrics if that's what you care about. And that's what we cared about. So of course we shifted. But for you, it could just be like being a better writer, being a better storyteller, being a better video editor, or all those things. But have a goal to this personal brand thing. And that should help you like stay motivated.
So thanks for that. So what are some goals? I think that could actually be challenging for some people. They don't really know what a goal could be. Like it could be, I want to get a job or I want to be known.
And that's like the process goal, and which is great, right? If he does that, hopefully that outcome would happen. But maybe it's like a bad goal would be like, I want to earn $1 million from content. Like that is crazy because if you don't earn any money, you'll get demotivated straight away and you just throw it away. So that's not a good goal. To get a job, one that folks say a lot, but really they don't know what job. Maybe they want a UX job, but they're not specific enough. What types of companies, who do they want to work with, what types of product they want to work on. So it's very fluffy. And will posting a content help you get a job? Maybe, but it's not certain. I would rather actually hunt down these people and knock on their doors and be like, yo, how can I help you? Versus create content and put it in the wild. I think that's like a different strategy. Some other goals. Yeah, I want to be known, but known for what? You could be known for doing something really stupid. And that's probably not a good way to be known. So I don't know. I mean, like, if that's their goal, up to them. But I just wouldn't have something like that. I wouldn't have a goal like that.
That's fair. And I think there's a difference in those examples that you gave, the goal that you can control versus an external factor, right? Follows and likes. You don't have control over that, really,
Exactly. So why bother?
right? So you mentioned you were up to 20,000. Is that followers on LinkedIn? What were the numbers that you were talking about?
Yeah, so it took me 10 months to get 10,000 followers on LinkedIn. And then I believe 4 months to get the second 10,000, so 20,000. And then 3 months to get 8,000. And then, so it's just like snowballed. So now I think I'm on about 40, but it just snowballed. Growth has stunted. We were doing at one point at the peak, like 1,000 a week, which was great. Yeah. So definitely need to look at the data there to see what works. We haven't changed much, I'll be honest, in terms of what we're producing, but now we're getting more strategic with what we're posting. Of course, everybody gets stuck in the impressions, followers, likes, and get all that stuff. That does cloud your judgment because you crave for it. It's that dopamine. It's not that important unless you're working with a brand and they care about that stuff. Then that's the goal. Then it's important. But if you're doing it for yourself and continuously and for your business, then you shouldn't care about it too much because you have 365 shots on the goal, right, every year. So you're fine. And maybe more because different platforms. Yeah, one thing that doesn't perform is absolutely fine.
Yeah, that's true. Chasing those numbers can be exhausting for sure.
Mhm.
So, Chris, what do you think is some of the value of that growth? Do you feel like it's the content that you have created that has contributed to that growth? Do you have any ideas?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. It definitely has been a series of experiments. Love looking at what others are doing and what others are trying and trying it. And if it works, we'll try it again. If it doesn't work, we'll shift. So it's a constant moving kind of target where it could be algorithm based, it could be timing. There's so many different variables. So we just try and focus on what works. And if it excites us, then we'll put it out. We'll be like, oh, this hasn't worked before, but it's dumb. Should we try it? I think if it's not fun, then why do it in the first place? So yes, you should stick to things that might work, but continuously push whatever the bar that you've set yourself as. I do want to add to yes, you shouldn't really care about these numbers to an extent. A lot of folks do care about it. If you're working with, let's say, sponsorship, it does add some credibility. Of course, you can get close bigger deals and stuff like that. So, like from that business side, it does matter. But in terms from like a personal effort side, it doesn't mean that you didn't try or that you suck. So you need to kind of balance that like emotionally and separate like the signal from the noise, as it were.
That's fair, for sure. And so, what about you mentioned sponsorship? What, if
Hmm.
anything, might be helpful if you are pursuing some sponsorships of your brand?
Yeah. So I made this mistake. I just waited for inbound, right? And I let the sponsors come to me because basically I didn't know that our follower of 20K on LinkedIn is big enough to get sponsors. So when I started getting sponsorship, I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And the first person I worked with, I charged them literally nothing and did everything on all the platforms. And then I slowly increased my price over time and did less because if they want you to do more, they should pay for it. But at the beginning, it's okay to do like a great job and to really put yourself out there and just help the brand. And even now, I'm still raising my prices. If someone has paid X amount, I'll be like, okay, cool. Now that I've validated that someone would pay me for that, I'm just going to increase the price. So don't be afraid to increase your price. And you'll know quickly that if you filled up your inventory, say you have like 2 posts a week or 1 post a week for sponsors, if you fill that up like a lot, then by all means raise your price. This month, I completely packed out my inventory and I actually had to have more. So I was like, okay, this is such a good reason to increase your price and say, okay, I'm going to take on less work, but hopefully make more money from it. Then the other thing is you have to learn how to cold DM and email. right? Nobody's going to knock on your door because they just don't know about you. So you're going to have to knock on other doors. Then you have to think about, what does this brand care about? You might not have the biggest audience because there's almost always someone with a bigger audience than you. But what you can do is be professional, provide a report after your campaign, give them the metrics of your previous campaigns, give them the logos, tell them your approach, show that you actually know what you're talking about. Because at the end of the day, if you're a content creator, you're basically a media business, right? You're creating content for yourself or for the niche that you're in. But really, if you're generating revenue of it, then 9 times out of 10, other folks would be like, okay, can you help me push this product or service? And then, therefore, you are this marketing agency, right? So you have to know what metrics matter to them, and then also how to get eyeballs on that content, and then ultimately lead to converting someone, right? So a lot of content creators don't think about this. They just think about writing, personal brand, whatever. Of course, opportunities is really far on the horizon, but if they can actually reframe that and think about this media empire that they're building based on their face and name, that should hopefully excite some, but also scare some people. But you end up learning a lot of this stuff around, does that mean? Because I'm sure Richard Branson wasn't a content creator. His face is associated with media and personal brand and all that stuff. But I'm sure he thinks about his empire a lot as well.
Right. And I think that's a good point, Chris, that I don't know that people are like, I need to create content. It's a gradual kind of falling into it. Hey, maybe I should post something on Twitter. Well, guess what? You're creating content by doing that. I don't know that people deliberately think I need to be a content creator.
I don't know. I would push back. I think a lot of kids, I think a lot of kids want to be YouTubers because it's so glorified. It's so glamorous, right? These TikTok people are traveling all over the world. I think that the kids growing up nowadays, or so I've heard, I don't have kids of my own, but, and I'm not hanging around high schools, by the way, guys, but I've heard that, that's replaced astronaut or fireman or whatever. I can't remember where I heard it, but it is, I think, a viable option for a lot of people or younger folks that think that it's the best thing. I could just play video games, stream it, and make a bunch of money. So I would definitely say, I don't know about that. I don't think folks potentially a bit older think about it like that, but I think younger folks have completely opened their arms and be like, yeah, content is a thing. And that's why I make TikToks all the time.
That's fair. Absolutely. And I think a lot of what you talked about, Chris, with the strategy of getting a sponsor and showing your value and cold calling relates to, I'm guessing, what you're discussing in your UX playbook too, by being your own business as a designer. So a lot of similarities there.
Yeah, absolutely. With the job sprint course, it's very much about that. It's like, how creative can you be with your reach out? Because in this market, it's absolutely shit. So 500 applications, and if you just submit your resume and a portfolio link, are you really going to stand out? Come on, right? There's talent everywhere. You really need to set yourself apart. And the best way to do it is be proactive and think around ways to reach out. Really easy way is if you literally put a deck of 5 slides together, record yourself on Loom, make it 2 minutes long, and send that with your portfolio, or put that on your portfolio, like the website, as the hero video. And that immediately you've made more effort. Immediately that's a little bit more personal. They can see your face, they can see you talk. Like things like that, I think folks need to get a bit more uncomfortable instead of just the old ways. Yeah.
Wow, that's a great idea. I hadn't heard of that. Sending out a recording along with your resume. Wow. You did mention the job market is shit, obviously. What are your thoughts on where it's been, what it's doing, where it might be going?
Yeah, I think maybe it's just a correction of like overhiring. That's why there were so many layoffs. So I don't think, if we look, over the last 10 years, people have got paid more. There's been more jobs around. It's just because of the pandemic and all the money sloshing around. People just wanted to scale, and now they have to scale back. Now money is becoming more expensive to borrow. So it's just everyone's been in this like weird state. I think it will normalize. It doesn't make it better for designers trying to look for a job, because people are graduating every day. During times of recession, or at least slower growth, I think The best time to start building something yourself is now, whether it's through content or starting freelancing. So that's why I'm also really excited by this kind of new direction and idea that I'm exploring, because it's been the easiest time in the history of the world to launch a product. No code tools, framework, whatever it is, right? So I think it's just like, hey, if you're not getting the luck in job search, why don't you try your luck at doing something else that's potentially immediately revenue generating versus like a job is very down the line kind of thing? Or do both at the same time. You can't job search for 16 hours a day.
That's exhausting, for sure. So, Chris, what advice do you have for someone who's thinking about, oh, I want to get myself out there, I want to stand out? What advice do you have for them?
Yeah, I hear a lot about, I don't know what to post. That's like the number one thing that people are like, oh, I just don't know what to post. If we're just talking about content creation, and the truth is that everything is content, right? Everything you're consuming can be then turned into a medium. If you're not like, okay, I need a special thought around this thing, you could actually just look at the existing thing you do and then make that worthy of the internet. And it is worthy of the internet, where you can take a picture of your wireframe, put a phone behind you while you work, whatever it is, everything is content. You just got to start. It gets easier. And the easier it becomes, the more interesting it becomes, because you'll be good at it, right? It's just this wheel of motivation that goes around. But it's not that hard. And everybody has some sort of social media account. It's usually free. So why not? You can always give up. If anything, you've learned some skills of marketing or writing or video editing. There are skills that you gain from doing this. It's whether or not you can get over this mental prison that you put yourself in. That's like, I can't do this. I'm shy. I'm not a thought leader. It doesn't really matter. Nobody's a thought leader. It's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that was a big hesitation for me. I'm like, oh, I don't know what to say. Why would anybody listen to me? And then I was like, ah, screw it. Just talk anyways. If no one's listening, like you said, you will learn skills, you will build skills. 2 months ago, I never opened a video editor before. Now I'm video editing. What? If you said that to me a year ago, you'd be editing video. I would have laughed in your face.
Yeah, and so I want to talk about three things that like the good aspects of content creation. So we just spoke about like the pros and cons of writing and video, but in terms of like actually making stuff and putting it out there. So the first one is obviously opportunities. Everybody always sees those opportunities. You meet people that you would never otherwise meet because you've just opened up your network so much more. There's potential collaboration. There's partnership with brands. Like you could work with a brand that you've always admired that you probably would never get a job there, let's be honest, but that's fine. You can validate a product idea quicker because now you have people that trust you and likes what you're saying. You can just be like, hey guys, what do you think about this? So there are a lot of opportunities that come. And the second thing is you know how to present yourself publicly. I think this one's awesome, right? You get like more comfortable in your own skin, right? And you speak and you write, and that gives you clarity of thought, which I said earlier. And then the third one is because you're online all the time and you're not just consuming, like most people that go on these social media platforms, they are just consumers. Not many of them are creators, but you'll start to notice the folks that are creating stuff. What are they creating? And you'll learn from them. So it is really exciting. It's like another hidden layer of content creation that excites me more. Like I'm not just a consumer. I'm always following the folks that make stuff, and you just become a maker. And as a designer, you almost like that's built in. That's why you're a designer. This is just another form, and it can be visual. It doesn't have to be visual, but for me, those are like the really good things that I could like bang home about.
For sure. And it's like when you become a UX professional, you never see the world the same way. There's always opportunity to improve, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes you wish you could unsee some of the things that just drive you crazy because now you know they shouldn't exist.
Yep. Yep.
Well, Chris, I want to wrap up today with what my favorite classic UX question, which is there anything else that we didn't touch upon that you would like to discuss?
I want to ask you, Jen, like you've been asking me all the questions. How's it going for you on your journey of content and stuff? Like, have you overcome some barriers? What are you excited about?
Sure. Well, thanks for asking. I guess it's been about 2 months now for me to have a YouTube channel. And I guess the barriers I've overcome is the technical issues. We had some issues earlier on this call. Learning new technology, learning new approaches. I come from a design background, but never video editing. So that was a new dimension for me to learn, which has been fun, challenging, but fun. And so coming up with a plan and a strategy of what I want to cover. And really, to what you said earlier, I do a lot of public speaking. I do a lot of speaking at conferences, but I have been holding myself back creating content and expressing a point of view. And I'm trying to get more comfortable with that, which is odd because it's like you open your mouth all the time. So what's the issue? But it feels more permanent. Wait, that one time I said it at a conference, that was an hour and it'll never be back. But on a video, it could be there 2 years from now. So overcoming some of that fear of exposing myself, being vulnerable, saying something stupid, cursing too much on recording, which is a challenge for me to not do that. But I think those have been the biggest challenges to overcome is myself. Like you said, that prison in my mind, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. And have you got over your own voice while editing, or you're still getting over your own voice? Because at the beginning, for me, it was terrible.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. I think for me, it's like working on my eyes. You realize how much you fiddle with something or your eyes shift everywhere and you're like, why are you not looking at the camera? And so there's a person, his name is Sean Cannell. Runs Think Podcasts and Think Media, and he has good advice. And two things that he says that I really appreciate is just hit record. Like you said, Chris, just get started. And the second thing is improve yourself 1% or in one way every time. And so I am doing that. Oh, the lighting was bad. Let me lighten it this time. Or, oh, I didn't do this. Let me try that the next time or figure out how to do that. Or, oh, there's a thing called tags on YouTube. Didn't know that was a thing. Let me add those this time. It is an iterative process and you are going to improve and you are going to learn and you're going to fuck up and you're going to make mistakes, but that's okay. We all do that. I think it's been the biggest eye opener for me because I'm like practice, miss perfectionist, get it right, sink hours into it. And I'm like, oh, well, don't have good makeup on today or I'm going to pull my hair back, but I'm just going to put content out there.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I think it's something about being adults where there is this thing of, oh no, because we've done good work in the past, every piece of work that we do needs to live up to that standard or that story that we're telling ourselves. However, if you look at kids, they are serial experimenters. They will just do it and fail and be happy that they learned something. I don't think folks who've been in the industry like me and you for a while, we have that approach to things. And at the beginning of learning anything, it always sucks. We're always bad at it. Let's say if you're just learning to play the harp, right? Like you're gonna suck for a very, very long time. But when you get good, you're gonna love it and you're gonna keep doing it. How do we weed out the suckiness first? Or how do we get through that in the quickest time possible and just get the reps in? The more we do it, the better we get anyway. That's just the law of probabilities. I'm always thinking about that. And I don't mind sucking. If you watch some of my videos, they are really bad at the beginning. I mean, arguably, they're still bad. But I don't mind. I have this thing in me that I'm just like, I'm just going to do it. Nobody gives a shit anyway. Yeah. And if they do, who cares?
You can edit a lot of that out.
Exactly.
Right?
Post-production is amazing. Yeah.
Wow, it really is. I wish I had that for my life in general, but I'll take it for the video. So, Chris, what are the next steps for UX Playbook?
Next steps is help more designers, whether it's build a portfolio, get a job, learn UX frameworks, or lead their first or second design team. So really just spread the word of UX Playbook and then think about the evolution of like, okay, once they've graduated from running a team and maybe they're bored, like I was in a 9 to 5, what else can we help designers with? Because I love working with designers. I think they're awesome, awesome people. And I think they make great CEOs and great builders. And I would just like to see more products in the world with style, with opinionated decisions, just like more interesting products versus products just built by engineers. And I think the world deserves that. And I think I want to be one of those guys leading that charge and like pulling people alongside me. So I think that's where's next. But remember, everything is an experiment. So it could fail. That's fine. But at least I'll have fun doing it.
Right. Yeah, I love that. I love the thought of having more designers as executives and leaders. What a big difference it could be in so many factors. If something was human driven, user driven, design driven versus profit driven, right? What
Mhm.
a huge, huge difference that could make.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Chris, for your time. I have enjoyed talking with you and learning from you. So, again, yes, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Really enjoyed being on here. Thanks, Jen.
All right. Thank you.
Check out all my interviews with industry leaders on BlatzChatz.